Welcome back for another week of the home buying process. Today we'll be going over step 3 after being pre-approved. You now have chosen your agent and you have signed the buyer-tenant agency contract. I will highlight a few things in the contract here today. One of the things is that you may assume that the contract is between you, the buyer, and the real estate salesperson. Actually, the contract is between you, the buyer, and the broker being the licensed brokerage. For example, Berkshire Hathaway's Home Services, the preferred realty, which is the licensed brokerage. Me, the real estate salesperson, is licensed to perform real estate activities on behalf of the broker. Another thing is in the contract, which is usually in bold print, is that a buyer will not enter into a buyer agency contract with another broker/licensee that begins before the ending of this contract. And it asks the question, does the buyer have a buyer agency contract with another broker? Yes or no? I mention this because you, the buyer, may already be in a contract with another broker, but for whatever reason, you don't want to be in that contract anymore. It's best practice for you to go sit down with that broker and communicate your need to get out of that contract. And then once you're out of that contract, then you can enter into another contract. Also, the length of the contract is 12 months or less, whichever is agreed upon. Now we'll talk about the commission. The commission paid to the buyer's agent will either be a percentage or a dollar amount, whichever is greater. That commission may be paid fully or a portion of it by the seller or listing broker. If a portion, then the difference will be paid by the buyer. If the seller is not represented by a real estate broker, then the buyer may be paying the broker's fee, which is the commission. Let me explain. Say the buyer agent's commission is 3%. The seller's agent is offering 2.5%. Now the buyer agent will go to the buyer for that 0.5% difference, which is that portion. Now with the seller not being represented by a broker, say for example you have a for sale by owner, a FSBO, and that owner is not offering a commission. Now that buyer agent will go to the buyer for that 3% commission. So this is really something that the buyer agent will automatically go to the buyer up front and say, hey, there's either a portion that you'll need to pay, or there's a whole commission that you need to pay with this property that you're choosing. And at that time, you as the buyer can decide whether or not you want to pay that portion, or you want to pay the full commission, or you want to see another property that is fully paid by the seller's agent. Also, we have that the balance for the broker's fee is earned if the buyer enters into a sales agreement of sale, which is where they put in an offer and the seller accepted the offer. That now creates the agreement of sale. During the term of that contract, whether the buyer, the broker, the licensee, or anybody finds that property, it's still entitled that that broker receives that commission. Also, if the buyer defaults on the terms of the agreement, that buyer is responsible to pay that commission to the buyer's agent. Also, if the buyer is advised not to contact the listing agent or the seller, but if they do so, they directly may compromise the broker's ability to earn compensation. Therefore, that buyer will be responsible for paying that commission to the buyer's agent. Another thing is too, that buyer agent may have other buyers who are interested in the same property as the buyer. That buyer or may want to put an offer of the buyer's agent's other buyers may want to put an offer in that same property as you, the buyer. I wanted you to know that the broker does not breach a duty to buyer by showing a property buyer is interested in to other prospective buyers. Another thing, recording on the property. In the state of Pennsylvania, it is a felony to record anything without the other party's consent. However, that does not mean that it does not happen. So you want to be aware that if you have any opinion about the property or anything that you want to talk about the property, it's best to be outside of the home when discussing details about the property. Now, after all the contract stuff, now we're going to get to the fun stuff, which is now time to sit down with your agent and go over the type of property that you want. Now, you may want a condominium, you may want a mobile home, you may want a single family, you may want a townhome, whichever you choose. Now you got to decide what county. Allegheny, Westmoreland, Washington, Butler. Say you choose Allegheny. What area in Allegheny? You want the west area where it's like in Greentree. You want the south, maybe in Clairton. You want maybe northwest like Imperial. You want the north like Edna. You might want the east like Monroeville. Which school district? What about the property details? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? How about the parking descriptions? Detached garage, attached garage, covered parking, off-street parking, on-street parking. What about the architecture? Cape Cod, colonial, Victorian, or the style of the home? 1.5 story, 2-story, ranch, split level. And most important, the price, which will be determined from the pre-approval. How much can you afford? What is the price range? Then after all this, you and the agent are ready to go out and look at homes. The journey to finding your perfect home could take days, weeks, months, but after you found it and you want to put an offer in, that step now starts the standard agreement for sale of real estate contract, which is between you, the buyer, and the seller. I will talk about the standard agreement of sale of real estate contract in the next video. Until next time, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified of new videos. See you later, family. Bye.